So she brings her experience and theological training to her work. Reverend Floyd serves as an associate minister at Mount Bright Missionary Baptist Church in Hillsborough, but she lives in Durham. Um, and she continues her ministry of connection and care. I will turn it over to you. That's number one.
I was telling some of the good folk coming in that I love anyone who has the expertise and the skill with technology. You would think I am a millennial, and I confess that I depend on the cakes of the world. Oh, wow. So good morning, good morning, good morning to you all again.
Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to you all online. Nelson, it's good to see your face. We've been communicating via email, so it's good to put a face with a name. Welcome, Kathy, and welcome everyone else in the room. I am just delighted to be here on this morning. Some of you saw me zoom in through the hallway, and I will let you know that was what my 3 years as a student here looked like, just zooming through these hallways, so it feels quite nostalgic. Now, I stretch when I say nostalgic. I just graduated in May of this year, and so I'll say it feels really, really good to be back, and it feels a bit different to be on this side, I guess, of the lecture hall. If you don't mind, I just want to begin with the prayer, and then we'll just kind of get into a roadmap of how we'll spend our time together. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right, well, let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you so much for this yet another day that you have allowed us to see. Today is a new day full of mercies, God. We just thank you. We thank you for your grace, for your spirit that's present. We thank you for your goodness. God, I thank you for everyone who is in attendance here in person, online, and who would even watch and see this on the recording. God, bless us as we come together to discuss those things that you have laid out for us to discuss today. And I just pray that our time together would be fruitful. We thank you and we love you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right, and so Reverend LaToya Floyd, again, good to be here. And on this morning, when Nelson emailed me with the invitation to come and share on this morning, I was just really wondering, what am I going to speak about on this like Labor Day weekend, Sunday? And correct me if I'm wrong, this is the beginning of your new semester, if you will. All right, so welcome back, right, to get us going. And so there's so many things to talk about. And kind of where I landed was on this idea here. And these have just been some things that I've been thinking through and praying through. And I feel like it's a very relevant topic. And so this morning, I would love for us to engage in discussion on this thought, the illusion of scarcity, towards a theology of enough, right? And so even if you look at this backdrop here, right, on this title page, this is the classic cafe illusion, right? So when you look at this, do you see straight lines? Do you see diagonal, right? So the illusion is that it is diagonal, but in reality, these are parallel straight lines, right? And so I thought that was just such a cute way to really even ground us in this discussion. Because what we see is really just impacted by our lenses, right? By our lenses. I'm also laughing at myself because this week my contacts have just been really different and difficult. So I have to put on my spectacles, and I find myself now when I need to bring it up close, put my paper here. And so the lenses make a difference, right? And so this illusion of scarcity, we're going to take a look at scarcity, right? And the lens through which we consider scarcity. But I want us, as we engage and walk through this topic and the idea, to really consider the illusion, right? When we looked at this, we thought that these were diagonal shapes, but really, in truth, when we take a closer look, these are absolutely straight parallel lines. So we might, once we take a closer look at scarcity, perhaps notice that things are not always as they appear at first glance. And so our time together, brief introduction. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, you're fine. We're just getting started. Okay. Just got to the introduction. So brief introduction, just on this idea of scarcity. And then we're going to move into some biblical and theological grounding. And then what I'm most excited about, so our time together is really going to be about engaging, right? We're going to have a lot of discussion. So the topic, I didn't stop at the illusion of scarcity. I worked in that part towards a theology of enough, because that word towards suggests that we're doing something, right? So this class, we're actually working towards that together. One of my favorite scriptures is in John 1, where it says, and the word became flesh. So I'm an embodied person. And so I would love, even as I prayed, that our time is fruitful, that things that we actually talk about, they're things that we're able to either recall from our own practices or employ practices so that we can engage what we're talking about on this morning. And so this is going to be a lot of discussion, a lot of questions. I'm really bringing my pastoral in, right? So we want to talk, we want to engage, we want to reflect. So there'll be a lot of stopping, discussion, pausing, and reflection. But at some point, we're going to get to some biblical and theological grounding. And then perhaps, if we have time, let's see what time we have now, 9:56. If we have time, we'll get to some Q&A. Sound all right? All right. Illusion of scarcity. Why this topic? And why now? Well, as we get into this lesson, and as we begin to engage, I just offer that we are in a time, a period, a season where there's a lot of fear, right? There are a lot of changes happening very quickly and swiftly, right? I just mentioned that I walked these halls just 3 months ago, and I come back, right, here in August, and even on this campus, there have been several changes, right? Job losses, layoffs, and there's just so many rapid changes that we're experiencing collectively as a society. And one of the things that I'm aware of, is I'm sure you are as well, is that our brains are wired for stability, right? And so our brains kind of sort of go into protection mode when there's shifting and changing. And so given that we're in a season, in a space where there's so much shifting, there's so much changing, from my experience pastorally, I've sat with and talked with many people that are just experiencing fear, not understanding or knowing how to engage change and transition, right? So I felt like this was a very relevant topic. And so why this topic? Why now? I believe that it's relevant. And even as I talked about how we're going to engage this discussion, not only is it relevant, right, for us to engage this, it's relevant for us to really parse through things together, because just like I said earlier, 3 months ago, I was a student sitting in these seats. I am a forever student, and there's no doubt in my mind that there's so much wisdom and insight and experience in this room, right, and online, that collectively, there are some things that we can exchange that's going to sharpen us individually to go back to the communities that we've come from. And so why this topic? Why now? But why together? Because I want us to lean into what are the things that we're going to be talking about. One of the things I want to bring out in this discussion is this idea of abundance. And I believe that there's an abundance and a richness in this room of wisdom, right, to help us engage this season. And so then what is scarcity? Just simple, right? Basic economics. So my undergrad was in econ, so I had to really temper myself not to nerd out. And so therefore, I said, LaToya, keep it simple. And so let's parse out the words. What is scarcity? So a simple economic explanation is scarcity. Scarcity, number one, as a basic assumption. In economics, scarcity is a basic general assumption, right? Resources are limited, right? Human wants are unlimited, unless there's any contestant in here. If somebody in here has wants that you learn how to tame and your wants are limited, one of the basic generalizations in the economic discipline of in the discipline of economics is scarcity, and that resources are limited and human wants are unlimited. And so then scarcity shapes our choices, right? It shapes how we engage. And since resources are limited, obviously we must make choices. My slide did translate when I saved it. But with that, I want to move from this general foundational understanding of scarcity to also point out what scarcity is not. Scarcity is not the same as finitude, right? So what do I mean by that? We said scarcity is limited resources and unlimited wants, but that's not the same as finitude. Finitude is simply limitations, but scarcity is the story that we tell about those limits. Scarcity is the story that we tell about those things. We have to make choices, but scarcity is the story that we tell ourselves. And so I want us to really even just sit with that. There's this idea that, sure, an economic reality is that there are limitations, but a reality that we can actually lean into from a nuanced perspective is that scarcity, limitations, is not the same as finitude. And so we're going to dig deeper into this. Pause right here to just see if there's any questions. Oh, yeah, no.
Well, could you go back one slide again about what the other scarcity was? Just okay, resources are limited, human wants, okay, are unlimited. And now you could go forward and then I could see, I thought I got it and then I stopped getting it.
You stopped. I appreciate
I was
it.
like, well, nope, it slipped away.
Last slide, did you communicate?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome. And so, again, when economists, right, watch the news, read the Wall Street Journal, right, any of those journals, when economists talk about scarcity, we're talking about the fact that there are limited resources and unlimited wants. And we're really fine-tuning this understanding that finitude and scarcity are not the same thing. Scarcity is the story we tell ourselves. Now, I imagine all of us can name places where scarcity narratives show up, right? So we just left off with scarcity is really the story we tell ourselves about limitations. But let's even just pause here, right? Because I can imagine that all of us can name places and spaces where these narratives show up. So where do these narratives show up? Just in general.
The assumption that resources for one thing are unavailable, but unlimited resources are available for another thing. For instance, Medicaid and nuclear weapons. That's economic choices, guns and butter.
Oh, what's your name?
Harry.
Harry? Thank you, Harry. Thank you. These are the ways these scarcity narratives show up. Absolutely. Several.
It's a construct.
Come on here with me. That's right. That's right. We're going to get there. But you're absolutely right. And so I feel really good that I'm in the right space. And even if there are ways that we want to problematize that, but I feel that we're in a good space because that's exactly where this lesson is going. And so with any construct, right, you can actually deconstruct it to build something more stable or efficient. And so I really appreciate you bringing out that point. I'm going to peek online to see if there are any comments or questions online, but I got an economist that I can nerd out with afterwards over coffee. Yes. But any other, let's see. Oh, I can't see online. I don't know why I did that. Okay. Yeah, right.
It occurs to me a discussion that was in a church council meeting one time that I was in. A discussion that was held in a church council meeting reflecting about funding thing. And one of the council members said, well, there's only so much money out there. So if we take it from, we do this, we can't do that. And we talked about, but where is God in all of this? And what happens, what happened when, with the feeding of the 5,000? Did God actually create more? Or was there seemed to be a scarcity, but when God was brought into the equation, there was not a scarcity. And so I've always contested that view that there's only a certain amount of money out there. And we have to, and it's a trade-off, one to the other.
I like what we were thinking. Hey, and so trade-off, right? Opportunity costs, right? That's what happened in economics. And what you're getting at, right? You know, is there a limit? Well, reality is there are limited resources, but I feel like what is at the core of what you're getting at is that it's not so much about what is there, but it's how we manage what is there. And that's what I feel like I'm parsing out of what you're saying, which I think is a brilliant point and a brilliant thing to consider, because let's just go ahead and get there. As we get to some of our biblical foundational points, like in the very beginning, right? Establish that God saw everything and said it was good. But we had abundance built into this thing from the beginning. It was blessed, right? It was good. In that system, there's replenishing. So things run out and they're replenished, right? There's seasons, there's cycles, right? And so to your point, in that blessing of it is good, God gifted, blessed, and granted humanity with the responsibility of stewardship. Back to this management. So again, if scarcity is really different than finitude, finitude states we are not denying that there are a limited, right, amount of resource at any given time. But scarcity is more because it's a narrative, it's the story we tell ourselves about that. So then how are we stewarding the resources, right? In this classroom right now, there are more than enough seats, correct? Right? Now, there's enough. Now, these are not all the seats that there are and that there ever will be, right? From a seat maker, right? So in this room, if everyone in here had luggage and took up the rest of the seats with their luggage, and someone else walked in here and no one moved their luggage, are there enough seats?
Right.
Realistically,
How much luggage you're carrying?
right? So I mean, there could be enough if we managed collectively together, right? Because of the things that you were talking about earlier, right? Well, these goods, this money. There is enough in this room right now. We see abundance. How we choose to steward, how we choose to make decisions about how we utilize and how we share impacts our perception, if I go back to that illusion, of scarcity. And I want to slow down to see if this is sinking in, right? That illusion. These lines are really straight, but from over there, it doesn't look like it. But when we peer in closer, we have so much stake in the game, right? To how this narrative of scarcity is lived out for ourselves individually and ultimately collectively, right? Communally, right? And so I love the way we're thinking through these things. And please feel free to challenge or to stretch or to problematize the things that we're saying together. I think that's how we grow, right? That's how we grow. It's how we sharpen one another. So, I mentioned earlier, me and these glasses. You stand over here, maybe I can see. And so Dolores Williams, a womanist theologian, says that God's economy is not about scarcity. It is about life in fullness for all. And so we see from the very beginning, right? There's abundance. God saw everything that he made, and indeed it was very good. Now, Walter Brueggemann, one of my favorite theologians, in this particular work here, The Liturgy of Abundance and the Myth of Scarcity, he's done some very interesting things in this piece. But what he is doing is juxtaposing like the scarcity narratives in scripture. For instance, Egypt, Pharaoh, being a taskmaster for the children of Israel, right? And how from that particular system, right, there wasn't enough for the children of Israel because of how the system, the oppressive systems were set up. So Walter Brueggemann is looking at these scarcity narratives and he's contrasting them with liturgies of abundance, right? Other narratives. Again, it's a story we tell ourselves in scripture. Again, creation we talked about. Also, the wilderness narrative, right? We remember when the children of Israel were wandering through the wilderness. Tell me about that. Tell me about that.
Every night.
For enough
And
for
it's
what?
For the day.
Yes,
And what I was going to say was, other than my business education, because I was thinking on theology.
And it's beautiful how in our business, in our personal lives, I firmly believe that theology is lived first. So from your business perspective, it is theological, right? It's almost like you don't have to switch phrases. It's who you are.
Basically, do you want to share what your abundance is with the rest?
And so in that particular narrative, right? Exodus 16, the manna in the wilderness, God provided each day. That I just wanted to bring that particular scripture out to underscore what I said earlier about management. God gave them enough each day. And if they kept anything over a day, what would happen to that manna? It would spoil. What do you think God was trying to teach this new people that was coming out of a scarcity narrative? They were coming out of a scarcity narrative. They didn't have enough, right? And so God is taking them through a wilderness before he gets them to milk and honey, which is overflowing with enough. Through this transition period, what do you think God is teaching? Lean into me and you will be provided for. Trust. Absolutely. Absolutely. So now let's just kind of lift that from Exodus and go back to the beginning, what I was talking about. In this season, there's a lot of fear because the reality is there is a lot of loss. Like I said, on this very campus, I came back here today and I'm saddened because there are folk that were working here when I was a student 3 months ago that don't have a job, right? And so in this very realized experience, trust is so paramount. Leaning into God, like providing each day, is so important. It seems simple and simplistic, but it is very challenging to lean into. So I want to go back to what I said earlier about the word made flesh. So I want to come to you. Yes.
Well, I wonder if even early on, God was helping the Israelites learn, as you're trusting, like, be open to receiving up, but don't start feeling you gotta hold on to it and store it and da 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 da. It's like, nope, this is enough.
This is beautiful.
Learn to be in that. Yeah.
That is the lesson. That's so beautiful. The illusion of scarcity that just come from Egypt, where those lines were not straight. That little cafe illusion I showed you.
Yeah.
And now they're going through a period to kind of purify that type of living and to now be taught how to learn exactly what you said. It's no, I won't do that yet.
And it might be human nature, you know, when you haven't had for a bit, and then like the pandemic and the toilet paper, all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you have like 4 years of toilet paper stored in your cupboard. It's like, what?
That's the human experience, right?
Maybe we're a little, you know.
And it takes this to remind each other, to really build together. And you said something, not to hoard.
Yeah.
Because with the illusion, when we have the illusion of scarcity, when you watch the news, when you hear and you see, fear absolutely creeps in. There's not enough. I've got to hoard.
Yeah.
I've got to hold on tight. I might have to cheat my neighbor to make sure I have enough for tomorrow, right? And so this illusion of scarcity thing is really a real thing. Fear is absolutely just something that we have to learn how to manage. But it really does push us into the space where we have to make some decisions. Again, economics, right? Scarcity choice. You have to make decisions then, right? About, I'm gonna hoard or am I going to abundantly share? Am I going to be generous,
Mhm.
right? As I'm working toward a theology of enough, how am I making decisions? And so, wow, you all, this is really good. Y'all are teaching some good stuff. I feel honestly encouraged and kind of spurred this morning. And so again, scarcity has been really a function of management. It's a function of stewardship. It is a construction. Scarcity is manufactured. That's why there's an illusion.
Salespeople manufacture it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Don't do it now.
Yeah, whenever you're on Amazon, hit left.
Have left.
The whole.
It's all a marketing thing.
It's also a way to control people.
Yeah. That too.
This is reality. So it's manufactured, right? In a capitalistic and the realistic like society, profit is God. That's the idol. And so in order for some to profit and others not to, you have to control, you have to manufacture scarcity. And so yet living in this in an alternate reality, right? Leaning into like a kingdom principle. So then we resist this illusion by building these theologies of enough, by leaning into, right, resisting hoarding. Now, being wise, being discerning, right, with our resources, right? Yeah, I'm just thinking even about myself when I was an undergrad in the city I was in. I was a student. I didn't have a job as a student, and there was a particular like thorough way that I would drive past to get to school from my apartment, and it would just be a lot of folks standing on the corner with signs. My little bleeding heart. Like after a while, I kept giving out my own lunch money. So we have to be wise, right? There are always choices to make, but then we'll get to hopefully at the end on ways that we do lean into resisting, right? The illusion of scarcity and yet working towards a theology of enough because it could be overwhelming. It could be really overwhelming, especially when it's systemic, right? But there's so many like little things we can do together daily, enough bread for the day, right? But there are things we can do together to help each other work towards these theologies of enough. It's just the culture we live in. How many of you all have social media? Yeah, like I'm thinking 10 years ago, how I scroll now was not like, we can never get enough, right? And so now I have to be intentional about working towards this new mindset of enough. And that's again about choices. All right, I am going to try to hasten to get to some more of this. Probably just got through one slide so far. I just want to bring out this one little point. I don't know if you all can see it from where you sit. But eco-womanist Melanie Harris emphasizes that scarcity is often internalized through social, economic, and spiritual conditioning. And I think we were gesting towards that as we're having this
Your
conversation.
depression grandparents. How they live the rest of their lives with their balls and their containers, and all the other things, the hoarding. A lot of people that became hoarders were children that experienced
I mean, that's such a
depression.
that's such a pertinent observation.
That was conditioned.
It's
Internalized.
multi-generational.
Absolutely.
I've said before, the depression in the 20s and 30s had a greater impact on me than anything that actually occurred in my life because of the way both sides of my family had to deal with it.
Yeah. A reality of limitations, but somebody else's decisions impacted, right?
And then kids who were in 2008 during the crash of
Markets.
markets,
Mhm.
pulled out of private schools, as work available, the whole thing.
Domino
And those
effects.
kids who witnessed that,
It starts
they
to
behave
condition us.
today as young adults.
it conditions us, right? When we talk about the children of Israel coming out of a very real situation, they were conditioned. And so again, how we talked about God understood our humanity, so gave them the space to be reconditioned. Internalization, right, of that illusion of scarcity, right? Because in fact, there was enough, there was a mismanagement at the top. And so then living into enough begins, as we're talking to right now, rejecting scarcity narratives, right? Living into this idea of enough begins with rejecting scarcity narratives and embracing God's already provided fullness. Now that's a really nice, pretty sentence, but that takes a lot of intentionality. And it takes a lot of like communal helping each other, keeping each other accountable, right? And working through this together. I think I'll go ahead. So, well, I want to bring up and lift up one more, I don't think I on the slide, but I want to bring up one more like biblical witness, and that would be I want to talk about Luke 12, right? The rich fool. Right? So in that particular narrative, but how did that story go? How did this is, I know adult form, but Sunday school. So how did this Sunday school story go with the rich fool? Right? This,
Yeah, Harry, come on, and help us here.
he built barns, he had enough. And
Yeah.
he built barns and bigger barns, right? But you can pull it up and actually read it verbatim for us.
That's right.
This is Sunday school, I love it. We're gonna read the text. But
I
yeah,
do like Dr. Google's.
say it again.
I do like Dr. Google's.
Dr. Google's, Dr. GPT, all of them help us
You the
out.
one that
You want
Say
to?
it again.
died,
Say it again.
you kept doing that you died?
Yes.
You would call that in, but like, I think I'm using died.
Yeah. No, you were absolutely correct. Absolutely. Yes, we're picking our brains on what went on in that particular narrative. So you have it up, Luke 12.
Yeah.
Luke 12, maybe
Yeah.
16, verse 16, you want to pick up around there.
Like what her soul was required.
Better know.
Told
the
in this
text.
parable, the ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. God said to him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? Now it will be whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God.
Mm. So,
This speaks a lot. My whole background's philanthropy, so it speaks.
what a beautiful heart, philanthropy. So from that parable, which we all knew, but it's always good to hear it, right, in this totality. Yes.
I think it's telling that like in that story, he's kind of like in trouble, but like now we would put him on the cover of Forbes. Idolized.
Say more. I think there's more to unpack with that.
Well, it's just like we idolize these mostly white men who hoard all the resources. Like God is telling us, don't do that. Like I'll give you enough.
Enough.
So how can we like be good Christians when our society is telling us quarter after quarter you have to get bigger and make more, and like we say, oh, like Elon Musk is so smart and Mark Zuckerberg's a genius, and it's like, are they, or are they just selfish and not good people?
Quarterly accounting is a scourge.
It's terrible.
If you've got to count profit every quarter, you make very bad decisions.
Yeah. And
Like,
if you have to
not
reward
every-
your shareholders so much and provide them with
Yes.
these huge,
Yeah.
huge dividends,
Mhm.
how can the leadership of a corporation make business decisions that don't create scarcity mind?
The only thing that gets bigger and bigger and bigger, like in nature, is cancer. Like uncontrolled growth anywhere else
Or a redwood tree.
And this is good because what we're pointing out, is because earlier, I think one of you, I don't know which one talked about it being a generational thing, right? And so from the Great Depression to even this generation who's being conditioned to see that as the goal. They need to be a billionaire. We're living in a time and space where oligarchy is like almost becoming
It
a norm.
started in the eighties with the art of the deal. Illusion that somebody was making
Media.
wise business decisions.
So the generations are getting
incredibly
different
wealthy, and
messages.
anybody who was in college and choosing to professions in those years were so heavily influenced by all those things came into
So
play. Influence.
On the other hand,
now, yes,
Abraham looked after folks. That's the big story in Abraham. He looked after his people.
abundance.
He had abundance. He accumulated.
Yeah.
He dug wells and
He
planted
dug
trees
wells and
for
planted. Yeah,
people travel.
that's right.
Well, it's the same thing with the early church. I mean, it's the model.
Come on,
for,
Acts.
like, oh, you're going here, hospitality, open up, oh, that church has needs, let's do a fundraising and send that money. You know, just stay loosely detached to what you have because it's really not yours, frankly, to begin with.
Yeah.
So I think we just wait from that.
No, this is
Well,
good. This is
quite a
good.
bit.
Because what we're doing is we are pointing out the enormity of this issue.
Yeah.
And yet here I am on a Sunday morning talking about a theology of the self. Is this possible? Well, hopefully towards the end, we'll get to some ways, because I said I want this to be an embodied class, some practices on how it's overwhelming, but I promise you, aggregation, like little steps build up over time. And we absolutely can begin to condition not only ourselves, right, but those we do life with,
Yeah.
to not only just resist, but to also construct. I love how you said construct a different narrative. If scarcity is the story we tell, if it's an illusion, then how do we begin to construct a different narrative? And you talked about the early church. Hospitality is so underrated.
Exactly.
So underrated. But can I suggest here on this morning that it is monumental? Please do not despise that as a small beginning. When you are hospitable, God bless you, I would fan that flame again and again. You are not doing too little. You may be entertained. I want to come back and see. I love this class. Absolutely. She said you may be entertaining angels unaware. And so even in that verse in Hebrews, he's talking about be hospitable to strangers, because some of you have entertained angels unknowingly, right? Unaware. And so it's something about hospitality that's also very spiritual, because it opens a pathway, right? As you're being hospitable, you're still receiving. Angels are messengers. And so it's like you're receiving, making a pathway to be able to receive your message from God, right? If you want to take that metaphorically. And so hospitality is not a small thing. If you don't leave with anything else here today, your practice of hospitality is absolutely important. It's vital, and it does make a difference. It does. And so what I want us to kind of hasten to then, as we were having this last conversation about not hoarding, and then the parable of the rich fool, and then I love how you brought up Abraham. I want us to definitely walk away and be clear that abundance is not condemned.
Right.
We opened up with the Genesis narrative from the very beginning. It is good, you're blessed. There is abundance. It's not a matter of abundance, but it's the decisions we make about our abundance. And so abundance is not condemned. That rich young fool, it wasn't his abundance, it was his selfish accumulation. Why did he need bigger barns? You had enough. And so I want to be clear that we're not saying that abundance is bad. You do philanthropy. You need abundance to be able to distribute it, right? So I don't want us to walk away with that idea that abundance is what's being condemned. It's the selfish accumulation where we're not mindful of our neighbor. What's the greatest command?
Love your neighbor.
Come on, thank you.
Love your neighbor.
That's right. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength. And the second is like to love your neighbor as yourself. Entertaining angels unaware. And so it's your generosity, right? Here's this next part. God's economy assumes both provision, provides, right, and participation. So our participation is not limited to me, right? How am I participating? like they did in Acts with the church at large, and not just my physical church family, but my neighbor. How many of us? I was talking to my roommate the other day, and wild story, something wild happened in my neighborhood in my development. A little child, I saw a little child was coming back from the grocery store, and just maybe this 2-year-old. She was walking. She had a cute little dress. Had a doll and no shoes, so I knew that she was from the neighborhood. She couldn't have gone far. Her feet weren't dirty, so I'm like. And like for maybe like 5-6 minutes, I saw no one coming around, no cars. And I'm just looking around. I say 10 minutes, maybe it was 5. Just felt like an eternity. I could not find her parents. And eventually someone came. And when they came, we didn't really engage. I knew that they were her parents because she's like, Daddy, da, da, da. And I was telling my roommate, I said, this is a really interesting time. Like, I want to know my neighbors. I would have assumed that they would have engaged me. I'm like, hey, I'm your neighbor from over here. In case that happens again, maybe perhaps we should be a village, right? So how many of you know your neighbors? Those seem like small things, but they're huge. To love your neighbor, not just your physical neighbor next door, but your neighbor. Who is my neighbor, right? Whoever you come across. So God's economy assumes both provision and participation. Stewardship then means turning abundance outward, not just hoarding. Turning, I want abundance so I can turn it outward. Fine.
How about 15 minutes?
15 minutes, okay, let's see. Then let's come. So let's jump into some practices because I want us not to just leave on our own, but to be vigilant about really encouraging our communities, our neighbors, our families, our kids, our relatives. Holidays are coming up. I don't know if you'll be around family or a group of folk, but let's have the conversations about, when is enough, right? Because we have to do this together. We have to do this together, family. And so one way to really deal with this illusion of scarcity and to work toward a theology of enough is to name that is an illusion. And I think that's what we spent most of this time doing. It is an illusion. It is a construction, right? And so here's a reflection question. When in your life have you felt most free from the illusion of scarcity? I know I can think about plenty of times when I've felt the illusion of scarcity, but I like this question because it stretched me. When in my life have I felt most free? And that's hard for us in the West. We're raised in conditions in capitalism. So when in our lives have we felt most free from the illusion of scarcity? Definitely meant to ponder. Right? It's going to take some thought. I failed to mention at the beginning of the class, I'm a contemplative person. So I love to sit and think. I love philosophy. I love thinking, and I love embodying, and I love practicing too. But I did want to work some time into our time together to really sit with some things and reflect. And if anyone is led to share or has something that you could share that may help the group, yeah, let's feel free to do so. When in your life have you felt most free from the illusion of scarcity?
Such a question.
Yeah,
I know.
it is.
It's,
Write it down for homework to share with your families, because that's tough.
it is.
It's
Tough and not tough. I mean, like, certainly if you're looking at certain seasons, oh, well, when I had this job, or when I went, but just moment by moment from a contemplative thing, Harry's into backpacking. He's hiked on the Appalachian Trail, and I've done some backpacking when I was a little younger. I want to get back into it. But when you're literally in the morning, gone to bed, wake up, there's the mountain, there's the mist coming up over the mountain, the mist is in the valley. Then the sun creeps over and the mist clears. You're sitting there in that crisp morning, taking in this incredible, beautiful view. And you're brewing your coffee, the water, boiling it, and everybody's just sort of sitting, waking up. You're just waiting for that water to boil. No hurry, no whatever, just being. Well, there's no cost to, you don't need a whatever to So that would be for me, certainly there's times like
My
that.
fleeting thought too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're,
With how
You're
little we
right.
need when, how little we need when we're.
You don't need it.
Yeah.
There you are, got
Pick
it
up
all.
whatever you need
That's
along the
actually
way.
really
Yeah.
good.
You're right, no more than that.
Yeah.
Good, that's good. Getting out in nature really helps us, right?
You really just wanna stay dry. And you wanna sleep
Yeah.
well
Just
and
wanna
warm.
relax.
And you know, it just gets down to those basic things that people have known.
Without being too chatty, one second one, having done some volunteer, times in Honduras, and really seeing generosity. I mean, you know, from whatever, talk about hospitality, but just like, wow, you know, this will, you know, from financially, you know, when they're pointing to, oh, in this community with partnershiping, so this goes with that sharing of resources. It was a Christian community development CCD, and they, through the community leaders, they pick one or two public health goals, and people come and help support that.
Yeah.
And said, mira aquí, and you see this glistening little metal, and it's how they brought water from one area to there. And you're just sitting there talking, and then somebody chops a banana off the tree, or you have a mango, and you're seeing just, and they're offering, or they maybe have something that they still are so willing to share.
Generosity, yeah.
So that would be maybe one other. Yeah.
In the simplest of need.
From the abundance, you know, or from whatever resources they have, frankly.
Yeah.
So.
From the, that they have, right? I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. This is certainly one that we can reflect on throughout the week. And just to really this whole year, to think about those times. And perhaps find a way to get back to that some way, somehow, right? To make the time, to reconnect. So
Well,
that
the
as we're
side.
resisting,
you have to make a decision that you have enough.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah, I agree.
from the top of my industry to, municipal farm, we have enough, but you have to decide that it's enough.
Yeah.
Because it's
Choose to
different,
see it coming up.
it's different.
Yeah, no, that's serious. You have to
Yeah.
choose to see it.
I thought I needed a new car and I was like, keep going on this one. It's okay.
Check it out, kid, in case you.
Oh, and
Also,
if you
she's
need
gonna
a
be
great
keeping her card, and you can
car
help Diane.
dealer, we have, well, Harry's
Oh,
daughter,
good.
Harry's daughter told me about a great used car dealer. Sorry.
No, sorry, I didn't mean.
No, you're fine. I actually was looking at
I just
the
got
two,
worried.
the two more pages I had. I said, we have maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I appreciate this discussion. I really do. I think that I would love for us to maybe even commit to really lean into not just discussing it, but to embodying it. Like, but it's gonna take hard decisions to choose to actually says enough. In closing, I'm gonna stop here. Just thinking through prompts. You just read through them all. And then, share some of those examples, right? With, I don't know, the little ones that you have in your midst, how old your kids or nieces or nephews may be, but even in your congregation, right? Thinking through, like, just ways to invigorate the people in your vicinity, not just lean into deciding, but to practicing enough. It's a practice that must be continued. And so, friends, with that, I feel like our time is definitely coming to an end. And so, really, just any closing thoughts, anything that was stirred while we were just exchanging together, anything that you're going to take away from this time in this space. You know, the big giants that are before us, right? We're going to leave here, we're going to watch the news, we're going to see what's happening, like very real time. We're We're gonna perhaps engage folk that, like I said, me walking back here, knowing that there are folk that lost their jobs, like we're not gonna be able to escape engaging folk that are impacted in a very real way. And so any thoughts that as we really think about this illusion of scarcity, how do we consistently work technology and practice also up enough?
Well, I'm sort of thinking like, being a good steward, being mindful, sure, keep some reserve for house repairs or whatever, but maybe we might really be thinking, can I live a little more on closer to the edge of the what's enough, so, quote unquote, so that, a little more food to the Eastern North Carolina Food Bank.
Yeah.
A little more to the whatever, because there's gonna be people, and there are people needing more of that right now, As well as all the times I call my congressman and senator and drive them a little nuts, so.
Sure, sure.
I
Yeah, all the-
was talking about it,
Yeah.
like saying, you know what, we have enough, we're blessed. Like I
Yeah.
was talking to my parents, my dad just retired. And so they're kind of like, they have enough,
Yeah.
but it's like, he's saying, I know we have enough, I can do the math, but it's like, knowing that I'm not getting that income, it's just a little
Right? Yeah.
disconcerting. And like in these times, he's like, will there be social security?
Yeah.
I just admitting that, yeah, you're scared, but like, you gotta have faith in God, not in social security.
Yeah, I mean, we're conditioned to think a certain way. I know I was. My parents were in the group and careful with their money, and they live off a minimum, yet they were able to do a lot with it, and then they had it. And I'm in a situation where I'm thinking, what is enough? I was just thought you need to work, you need to accumulate, and that's it. So, I didn't get the next step. So now I'm thinking, what's the next step? And so I have that big question. And talk about scarcity. I mean, to me, that's kind of a tricky question because America is very rich, and because I traveled a lot, I grew up overseas and travel to different places, and I had a friend tell me this. It still stands out to me. She said, America's a rich place because they have hospitals for animals, for pets, and they don't have. So I always thought about, yeah, you're right, and so from my perspective is not just North Carolina, but a lot of the whole world, and so you come to America and people look like they're prosperous, but when you start digging, they're actually not. They're living a false prosperity, and yet then you have some that really are wealthy and have a lot. So it's just all over the place. So just I don't know. It's a complicated. To me, it's complicated.
I tell you, like you said, having a discussion, it is complex, I think, but engaging this discussion says that you know that you're showing up to have the conversation. And I think that's never to be dismissed as again, a small thing. So you're thinking through it, as we all are.
Well, I'm not looking for the silver bullet answer. I just need a way is all. But I know there's more than one way. So just find a way and go.
Yeah, that works.
That's what I'm thinking.
So, may it be so. Well, friends, I have enjoyed my time with you all. I really appreciate it. I've heard every voice. And so this has been rich for me. My time has been fruitful because I've received so much. Enjoy your service. Enjoy your service. Have a great one. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I looked at your church, wow, what a rich history. I mean, at least what it was, I mean.
Hillsborough is a great place. I mean,
The bright church.
Yeah, I've been there since September. That's where I did my internship, in May, I graduated, but they made me the associate minister, so I've been fortunate to stay and serve with.
What I read, I was just like, wow, what history.
They
this
have a
was.
rich history. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I'm learning so much about
Yeah.
the people there and about Hillsborough.
Yeah.
It's really just.
Well, Hillsborough is growing and, the whole area is blocked.
oh, it's crazy.
I remember,
Used to be a sleepy little town.
I know.
Are you Durham?
I came down for undergrad, never left, but I married this guy and moved, anyway, in Cary,
She
but
immigrated to Cary.
I immigrated. We had a long relationship across the county.